Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'm here to continue our read aloud of The Accidental Adventures of India McAllister by Charlotte Agell. This book is published by Henry Holt and Co, and we're going to pick up with Chapter 3, My Mother is Strange. My mom is not like other moms. That's because she's an artist. Sometimes it's really fun having an artist for a mom. She lets me use her paints, even the smelly ones that you're not supposed to get on her skin, like oil paints. They come in tubes like toothpaste. I love their names. Umbrian Yellow, Phthalo Blue, Cambrian Red. Oil paints are also expensive. Most colors are poisonous, so I'm very careful. Sometimes I work on my own paintings. Right now I'm doing ones of dots. They're all different colors and sizes, from berries to beach balls. Once I made a pretty good painting of Tofu, which is hard because he doesn't sit still unless he's sleeping. So I did him running. It's kind of a blur, but you can tell it's Tofu. My mom saved it. She saves all my art. It's a good thing we have such a big house. There are canvases stacked everywhere. But sometimes I wish my mom had an ordinary job. She could work in an office or sell shoes or be a lawyer. Here's why. There's a breast on our living room wall. It's made of plaster. Mom won't ever take it down because it's her breast. She made the sculpture of it before she had lost the real one. She had to have it removed because of cancer. This was before you arrived on the scene. My mom explains when we talk about it. I was very sick, but now I'm better. On the side without a breast, she has a long scar. I tell her that she's like one of those archers from the Greek myths, the ladies who cut off one of their breasts so that they could shoot their bows and arrows better. I read about them. Honey, that's an ancient rumor. I'm sure the Amazons could aim just fine with both breasts. But she laughs. She can joke about it now that she doesn't have cancer anymore. Her bra has a fake breast in it, so people can't tell. Her swimsuit does too. When you squeeze the fake breast, it feels a bit wobbly, like Jell-O. She could go to the hospital to add a new breast to her body, but she doesn't want to. Enough surgery, she says, and that's that. When I was little, Mom always told me not to worry, that I would have 2 breasts when I grow up. Not that I wanted breasts, then or now. I don't even really like talking about breasts, but it's unavoidable since I'm in 4th grade. Amanda has breasts, even though she's only 10. They stick out of her shirt. She looks all happy about it, but I wouldn't be. A breast on the living room wall is enough for me. And sometimes too much. People see it up there. Colby is okay with it, probably because he's a guy. I remember the first time that he saw it. What's that? What's what? That white thing up on the wall, he points. That's sculpture. That's my mom's breast. Ha! What's it doing on the wall? Not a real breast, dummy. Well, what's it for? To remind her that she had it once, I guess. Looks funny. I know, shut up. I think we were about 7. But since then, we haven't talked about it again. Besides, Colby understands art. Art is supposed to make you think. It's not just pretty pictures. Death in the Mountain of Peru? I'm not sure. Mostly it's grown-ups who comment. Maybe because I don't invite all that many kids into my living room. My mom's friend Lisa says, "Rosemary, honey, you're the strongest person I know." Lisa always says that while standing right in front of the breast. It's on the wall next to a landscape and a photo of me when I was a baby. I have to admit that I was really cute back then, and fat. That morning, the man who comes to fix the sink that's been dripping forever sees the breast. He catches me looking at it. Instantly, he turns red in the face. I stare back at him and frown in a mature fashion. Why do breasts make people act funny? What if Mom put a plaster cast of her nose or her foot on the wall? Would it be different? Breasts are nothing but body parts. They can be different sizes like other body parts, I guess. Noses, for example. All bodies are different. Mine is Chinese. It's very normal in China, but in Wolfgame, I'm the only one. Everyone knows I'm adopted. It's obvious. Sarah and Matt in my grade are adopted too, but you can't tell looking at them. They both have blue eyes, like the rest of their family. Somewhere far away in China, I have a birth mom. Unless she died. Another dad, too. Maybe. My mom says that the orphanage has a record of my birth mom, but not my birth dad. When I'm in high school and Mom has saved up enough money, we're gonna go to China. It's so far away that when it's day here, it's night there. I don't know if I want to go. I don't even speak Chinese. What if my birth mom wants to talk to me and I can't say anything? Not that my birth mom would want to talk to me. She gave me away. She was so young, India, says Mom, who is of course glad about it, otherwise she wouldn't have me. It's also confusing. I don't tell anybody, but I'm very mad at my birth mother. If she doesn't want me, I don't want her. Sometimes I hide my face under my pillow and scream, I don't want to be Chinese anymore. Why can't everybody in Wolfgang be Chinese instead of nobody? I don't even like egg drop soup, so who am I anyway? I can't remember anything about the orphanage, I complained to Mom. That's normal, says Mom. Nobody can really remember that far back. You were just a baby. But the thing is, I have a secret. I do remember something. It's the color red. My memory about China is bright red and also gold. If we do go on a trip to Guangdong province, where I was born, I'm going to be looking for it. Whatever it is, I'll know it when I see it. For now, we're not going to China, we're going to Portland. Mom exhibits work in a gallery there, and we're driving to a new show in the city. Mom and me and Colby, since I'm allowed to take a friend along, as long as it's Colby. He's my assistant, says Mom, and I would be jealous, but Colby deserves the title more than I do, since he actually wants the job. Not only that, but when he helps her load her work in and out of the car, he's very, very careful. I'm not that careful, but I do love a trip to Portland. It takes a few hours to get there. Colby and I sit in the back and count stuff. One time we saw 87 cows. Another time we saw 2 moose. This time we see something spectacular. One enormous hot air balloon. Must be so cool to fly. You and Colby can help me unload, says Mom, as if we didn't already know the plan. Then we'll go for lunch in the city. We start out on a sunny morning, but by the time we get down there, it's foggy. You can even hear the foghorns. When I was little, I called them frog horns. Watch out for the dread frog. It's often foggy by the sea, says Mom, who grew up on the coast. Portland isn't a very big city, but to me it looks huge. From the highway, you can see a lot of buildings. Some of them are pretty tall. They probably have elevators. There isn't a single elevator in all of Wolfgang. The art gallery is on the ground floor of a building in the old part of Portland. Mom and Colby lug the paintings while I open up the doors. I recognize the gallery owner. She has short hair and enormous glasses. Oh, Rosemary, she says, swaying on her tiptoes. Those are beautiful. I especially like the one with the spirals, comments Colby, who isn't shy about his art opinions. It's as wild as my baby sister. Knowing Monica, I agree with him. The gallery lady laughs. I can tell she thinks Colby is adorable, but Colby isn't noticing. He's walking around looking at the other artist's work on the walls. There's some crazy stuff in here. After my mom and the big glasses lady talk for a while, we go to lunch, just the 3 of us. Mom takes us to Ruby Fong's. It's a new Chinese restaurant not that far from the gallery. The inside is red and gold, and that makes me happy too. When we sit down, a tall Chinese man comes over to take our order, but we say we're going to all have the buffet. That way we can pick and choose. They have many kinds of food, even mashed potatoes, which I don't think are very Chinese. I load my plate with lo mein. Show me how to use chopsticks again, says Colby. And I do. I can do some Chinese things, even if my American mom taught me. I smile at the waiter when he comes to take our plates. Suddenly I ask him, what does red mean in China? He smiles back at me. Red is very lucky in China. He gives us each a fortune cookie. Fortune cookies aren't really Chinese, says Mom. They were invented in America. People think they're Chinese. This reminds me of me. I'm from China, but I was a different person there. My name wasn't even India. It was Faye, which is now my middle name. So now I'm an American invention. I open my cookie. It says, you will have many wonderful adventures. I eat up the whole cookie, even if it tastes like sugary cardboard. You have to do that, even if you want the fortune to come true. At least that's what we say. Colby reads his fortune. There is hard work to be done. He doesn't eat his. Mom holds up her slip of paper. Good luck will come to you from across the sea. She smiles at me. It already has. I love my mom, and I'm thinking my heart probably looks exactly the same as her, red, strong, and happy. Here's a picture of fortune cookies, and it says you never know what you're going to get. And here's a picture of a real heart and what we draw as hearts, and it says the human heart is complicated but simple at the same time. Chapter 4, The Snake Mistake. I love my dad too, except that he lives with Richard, and I'm just not so sure about Richard. It doesn't seem fair that he gets to see Dad every day and I don't, and I've known Dad all my life. Today they are coming to take me to Camden, which is about a zillion-mile drive even in a fancy sports car. The good thing is they say I can bring a friend, and of course I choose Colby. His mom says that he can go. Great timing, Colby reminds me, since Saturday is everyone clean the house day at Colby's. For some reason, Mom and I never have those. We have a huge house with only 2 people and 1 dog, so it swallows up all the clutter and mess pretty well, except for Tofu's fur, which he sheds, and that's most of the time that he does. Colby has a tiny house with 6 kids, 2 grown-ups, and 3 cats, so they all have to pitch in. A typical square foot or so of floor space at Colby's has sports magazine, Morgana, their very wacky cat, empty iced tea bottles, crumpled up socks, partially eaten apples, game someone was playing maybe 3 days ago, Cece's purple hairbrush, whatever this is, a large hairball. Don't worry, yells his brother Jacob when Dad and Richard and I swing by in the Mitsubishi Spider to pick up Colby. We'll save you the bathrooms. I think he's kidding, but Colby says he's not. We drive east through Camden and by the sea without saying much. This is because Dad and Richard are on the front seat and they've got the radio on. They're always listening to National Public Radio, and there's a lot of really calm talking about some awful things and occasional jazz. Colby and I don't talk much either since it's still early, and Colby is always sleepy until about noon, even in school. It's like he comes to life in the afternoon. We do look for cool things, but mostly it's cows and hills and trees, and nothing much sticks out. Isn't it lovely to see new leaves? Richard turns around to us and says in his German accent. I suppose he's right, since winter lasts so long around here, but I merely nod. He's making an effort, as my mom might say, but that doesn't mean I have to. Yes, it is, says Colby, since he knows how to be polite in his sleep. Once I asked him about growing up in Stuttgart, and he was so happy. I do make an effort sometimes. In Germany, when I was a boy. The miles go by. We stop at a gas station and use the toilets. Dad lets us buy a candy bar, which is unusual, especially since I know he has carrot sticks and pretzels for us in the car. He likes to be well prepared, so he travels with snacks. I chose Snickers, like I always do, and Colby settles on a bag of sour Skittles. He always takes a long time to decide. When we walk back to the car, Dad puts his arm around me, and I smell his familiar smell combined with a slight dash of gas station restroom disinfectant odor. He's still my dad, and I love him. I just wish he were still all mine. We'll go up Mount Batty, he says, giving my shoulder a little squeeze. Remember when you and I camped up there, and that falcon swooped down? How could I forget? It was only last summer. I grin up at him, even though I know that with Richard along, we'll be driving, not hiking up. The mountain has car access, and Richard only has fancy shiny shoes. Nothing you could go up a muddy trail in. He's not a man who moves much, as far as I can tell. It's like he only lives in his brain. Some people live big in their bodies. Like Colby's little sister Monica, for example. A feather duster. And she's saying, wee! And the cat's running away from her. And some people mostly live in their heads, like Mrs. O in a nice way, who's thinking of Mozart, and Richard. Who knows what he's thinking? The land starts to flatten out. Then in the distance we see the Camden Hills. We come over a rise, and there it is, the wide old sea. It sparkles at us. A single early season boat sails towards the horizon. It makes me happy all of a sudden, like there's possibilities out there. And also Portugal. It's across the sea from Maine if you travel a long, long way. We have a lovely late lunch at a restaurant where Richard and I met, says my dad. But first let's go up Mount Batty. I don't actually know if I care where Dad and Richard met. We drive through Camden, it's much fancier than Wolfgang shops. It's pretty quiet since it's not tourist season yet, but in the summer it's crazy busy with people who want to buy lighthouse keychains, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have one myself since I'm an inland girl and I come to Camden every year with my dad. Some people in Maine don't like tourists, but I do. If you can't visit the world, then why not let it come to you? Besides, there aren't really any tourists in Wolfgang. I guess there's not much to visit if you don't love streams and fields. Our one big attraction is the Civil War cannon in the middle of town. Most of the time, someone has stuffed an empty can into it instead of recycling, so Colby and I call it the soda cannon, which is funnier if you have our sense of humor. We're about to wind up the mountain when I make a big discovery. Colby has packed his rubber snake, Zelda. I see her fanged mouth hanging out of his backpack. He's had Zelda ever since I met him. She's about 2 feet long and rather convincing if you don't know anything about snakes. When we were little, I'd bring my stuffed dinosaurs and Colby would bring Zelda, and we'd set up little towns for them with houses made out of paper. They were very civilized reptiles, except for when they were at war with each other. Then they'd rip up their paper houses, and we'd have to start building all over again. But that was half the fun. When Colby did Zelda's voice, he'd get all slithery. It's been a long time since we played that game. Still, I'm glad to see Zelda. She gives me an idea. Can I borrow her? I asked Colby. Just until lunch? He shrugs. Sure. I wonder why you brought her in the first place, but I don't ask. I don't want to draw any attention to her now that we're all getting out of the car at the top of the mountain. I wind her up into a tight little ball and stuff her in my pocket. She mostly fits. There's a fire tower up here and no other people, and it's amazing because of the long, long view. You can see the whole town of Camden. It looks like a photograph with little houses and churches and tiny cars, and those tiny specks are people. And of course, we can see the sea. Richard sits down at the base of the tower and looks solemnly out over everything, as if he might say something important about it. Or not. Richard isn't a big talker. My dad sits down for a moment too, and then gets up and wanders around the rocky mountaintop. He's not a sit-still kind of person. Colby walks around with me and Zelda the Hidden. We find a path through some low bushes. It takes us to a great lookout point. I don't even have to tell Colby my plan. He already knows because he's been my best friend forever. Do you really think he'll fall for it? Yep. Do you really think it's a good idea? I don't answer that one, since I'm not sure. I just put Zelda on the path in a very natural, snaky-looking way, and then I get Dad and Richard and tell them that the view is much better from over here. You can even see the lake we swam in last summer, I say, and act very jolly. McAllister, it's so blue. It works even better than I hoped it would, and that's the problem. Richard goes first. Richard sees Zelda on the path and thinks she's a real snake. Richard actually kind of yelps and clutches at his chest. Dad takes Richard's arm for a moment and leans down to pick up Zelda. Dad doesn't laugh like he thought he would. Maybe he recognizes Zelda from a long time ago. In my country, says Richard, sitting down on the rock, breathing a bit funny, there are vipers. He says vipers with a hissing S, but that's probably because he's German. When I was a small boy, I was very afraid. Don't be afraid, I say too loudly. It's only rubber. Then I realized that Dad might think Colby planned this trick, and since he didn't, I have to say it. The word I don't love to say, especially to Richard. Sorry. Words I'd rather say. Larva, mercury, lollipop, reciprocate, petunia, rutabaga, almost anything else. Ah, says Richard, you were having a little joke, yes? He looks normal again, but Dad has frown lines on his face. We drive down the mountain and go to the place where Richard and Dad met, which turns out to serve mostly seafood, and it is really fancy. Mom would make observations if she saw all the white napkins and tablecloths. Can you believe a tiny salad costs $15? That's probably about 90 cents worth of ingredients. Mom is more of a potluck kind of person. She can get very worked up about things like this, so it's a good thing she's not here for a lot of other reasons too. Thinking about her, I feel slightly better. Maybe she wouldn't put a rubber snake on a path, but she'd probably put her foot in her mouth and then regret it. Dad and Richard seem to be having a lovely time, and Colby gets to order a whole lobster for himself, so he's in heaven. It's very hard to eat lobster on a white tablecloth, but Colby does it without squirting much lobster juice on everything. I pick at my chowder. I'm surprised I didn't order a lobster since I love them, but I wasn't in a good enough mood. I probably shouldn't have tried to scare Richard. Not ordering lobster was my secret punishment for myself. But Richard offers me part of his chocolate cake he just can't eat because he says he's stuffed, so I guess he isn't too mad at me. It's actually delicious, and I'm not that full, even though I ate my entire ice cream sundae with extra whipped cream. I don't usually punish myself too hard. Good thing the dessert stomach is a different stomach, says my dad, smiling. It's one of his old lines. I've heard it about 52 times, but I still smile. On the way home, Dad doesn't turn on the radio. Instead, we play 20 questions. I stump everybody by thinking of a manatee. Zelda is safely back in Colby's backpack, with only the tip of her tail sticking out. When we slow down through all the little towns between Camden and Wolfgang, people wave as we go by. I think it's because they like the look of our extra snazzy sports car, but maybe we just look happy. Chapter 5, Richard's Big Surprise. Dad and Richard live in Ottenbury, in a place called the Pines. It's condos. There's not a single kid in the Pines, except sometimes me, and there are also hardly any Pines. The Pines does not allow dogs or cats, so when I visit, Tofu stays at home with Mom and makes messes because he misses me so much. I miss him too. Ottenbury's not that far from Wolfgang, but to get there you take very twisty roads. I sometimes get car sick if I have to sit in the back. That's why I love it when my dad comes to pick me up, without Richard. He lets me sit in the front. This makes my mom mad. It's not safe, she says, and he's a doctor. He should know better. Well, at least I don't get car sick in the front. I'm especially glad if he's driving his Mini Cooper. It's just my size, and it's my favorite color, red. That's my dad's favorite color, too. We joke that we're going to play chess on a cute black and white checkered roof, but we never do. My dad and Richard have 5 cars for only 2 people. Mom thinks that this is excessive. How completely decadent, she says, every single time I go to visit. She might be right about that, but I get tired of her always criticizing my dad, so I don't agree. Besides, their cars are cool. They collect cars, I inform her. It's an investment. I think maybe she's jealous, but she says that these sorts of things aren't important to her at all. She said she needs space for her canvases, and for me, of course, and her old Subaru works just fine, except for when it's in the shop. We'll chalk it up to philosophical differences, she says when she hears about their latest, the Alfa Romeo. You just have different tastes, I remind her. You can say that again, sweetie, Mom replies, but I don't. So this particular weekend, Dad comes to pick me up with no Richard, and I think it's going to be a great weekend. He says we're taking a hike, and hiking is not one of Richard's hobby in the least. I'm happy that it's going to be the 2 of us, like it hardly ever is anymore. Sometimes things don't turn out the way you want. Sorry you can't, we won't, it isn't going to happen, but I wanted to. Especially at my dad's. Maybe it's because I'm always hoping too hard when I'm with him. The first thing that happens is I get up on Saturday and my dad isn't even there. Richard is cooking special pancakes called crepes in the kitchen in his stiff, silent way. I do like crepes though, so I go sit near him. He's a very precise cook even when he's using lots of eggs. There's not even any splatter. He puts Nutella on each perfect pancake and rolls it up. I have to admit, it smells good. French children often eat chocolate on their baguettes. He says, he's told me this a few times already. Grown-ups repeat themselves a lot. Where's Dad? I ask casually, hoping he's out getting more orange juice or something. Sorry, Andy, he says. Your father had to go into work. The doctor on call woke up sick and he had to take her place. He gives a little sigh. Maybe he's sad that Dad isn't around on a weekend, or maybe he's already annoyed that he's stuck with me. I rolled my eyes, but not so he can see me. No Dad, no camping. Just me and Richard. He'll either ignore me or give me coloring books or something, as if I'm sick. He left you this note, Richard says, almost like an afterthought. Dear Indy, so sorry we won't have our hiking weekend, but I know Richard wants to take you out for a surprise. Have fun, and I'll see you for supper. We can make pizza. Love, Dad. I look at Richard. What's a surprise? Richard strokes his beard the way he almost always says before he says anything. If I tell you, what's a surprise? Then he smiles shyly and adds, we're going shopping, you and I. I wrinkle my nose. I hate shopping, especially the grocery time. It usually takes forever. Shopping for something special, he adds. I wonder if that's for someone special, he adds. I wonder if that's supposed to be me. Okay, I say, shrugging my shoulder. I don't add whatever, but that's how I feel. The weekend is ruined. I might as well go shopping. After that, we could clean the house. Not that it needs it. At Richard and Dad's, you could perform surgery in any room but mine. It is so clean. Richard nods at me, looking pleased with himself. You'll like this, he adds. Personally, I hate when people tell me that I'll like something. How would they know? Mind reading isn't for real. At least it better not be. We stack the dishes in the sink and get into the car. It's the Alfa Romeo, Richard's special vehicle, and I guess I should feel honored, but it's too cold to put the top down, so instead I feel annoyed. Sometimes my mom tells me I forget to think about others, and that I'm not a charitable person, but I don't care. Outside I look like the normal me, but I'm not smiling. Even after a whole year, I don't know Richard well enough to sulk in front of him, and that's kind of weird, not to mention inconvenient too. A person should be able to sulk in her own home, even if it's not the one she usually lives in. We drive through the town and over a bridge, not talking at all. After a few minutes, we pull up to a long white building. The sign says Bert's Farm and Feed. I've never been here before. Richard holds open the door for me with a little bow when we walk in. It's busy. There are rows and rows of potting soil and other gardening things, and people standing in line with bags of bird seed and chew toys. The place smells of hay. Richard takes me to the back of the store. There's a whole wall of fish for sale, swimming in their own little aquarium worlds, and shy, small animals like guinea pigs hiding under the shavings in their cages. I want to look at a rabbit, but Richard takes me by the shoulder with his pinchy hand and steers me into a small room. It's all twittery in there. And that's the first time I ever see her. Bird, cockatiel of the universe. Instantly, I love her. We take her home in a brand new cage. I sit in the back holding it. I don't feel carsick at all. Richard turns on the radio to the classical station. We'll have to get her whistling Mozart, he explains. When we get back to the Pines, the noisy neighbor I've never met but always see is in her driveway. She's the kind of person with perfect hair and lipstick who does not approve of anyone else in the world. She looks at me as I carefully take Bert out of the car. You must be Andrew and Richard's little girl, she says with an eager look in her eye. Maybe she thinks that it's odd that Dad and Richard are together like a couple. A lot of people do. But Bert is here, and I have more important things on my mind. So I calmly blink and say, yes, I am. I lug the cage up the front steps. Richard is holding the door open for me. I think I might be charitable after all. That's the end of where we're going to read today. We'll pick up tomorrow with Chapter 6, which is Amanda Roden is Not Perfect. We are reading The Accidental Adventures of India McAllister by Charlotte Agell, published by Henry Holt and Co. Once again, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.